No signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. No more. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. It's black and white.
Hello race fans and welcome to Spa in Belgium for round 2 of the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup series. My name is Peter MacKay and joining me in the commentary box this evening for the 200th broadcast here on Simracersworld TV is Jack Oliphant. Jack, it was a cracking first round at Hockenheim of this brand new series, but here at Spa we're turning the wick up once more.
Yeah, Hockenheim, one of the newest circuits of the iRacing server, but Spa has been here since day dot that I've been commentating anyway. I'm not sure if it was day dot, to be honest, of iRacing, but it has been an absolute staple of many series that we covered on SRW, and obviously that the Porsches have been around as well plenty of times. So hopefully everybody knows it like the back of their hand, and so we can see some fantastic times being put on the board for qualifying and also in the race. But 200 broadcasts for SRW, I think we need to make more of a thing of that, Pete. It's absolutely incredible for the service, isn't it?
I feel like we need like a sound effect deck or something, like that sort of trumpet sound that all the rappers make in their videos. You know the one I mean.
Yeah, I know. I was going to try and get something or a GIF, but everything I found looked rather unprofessional, so I didn't bother.
Yeah, there's. I don't think there's such a thing as professional comedy sound effects. But anyway, we will the best tribute of all for our 200th broadcast here on Simracersworld TV is two brilliant races. We have a 20-minute sprint race where the drivers go off in the order they qualify. Then we have a 40-minute feature race where we have two little wild cards to throw in. The top 20 from race 1 is inverted for the grid, so if you win race 1, you start from 20th in race 2. But also what's interesting in race 2, and we saw this last week, Jack, from a strategy point of view, you have a compulsory pit stop. You can take it more or less whenever you like, but it's when to take it. That's going to be the question. And if you feel you're being held up, maybe it's time to duck into the pit stop. But I think throughout the season, we're going to see lots of different strategical plays being dealt out.
Yeah, exactly. And the driver that obviously we were keeping an eye on last week was this man Lewis Ward in that sort of reverse grid 40-minute feature race, because he was absolutely flying. He carved through the order and got into first place, took his pit stop really late compared to a lot of other drivers who were chasing through, and he managed to pull such a gap in the end that he came into the pit stop and actually got out about, I don't know, 10 seconds ahead. It's not going to help him if he carries on doing that, but a good hold, to be fair, by Lewis Ward. But a sensational race win in race number 2 last time out of Hockenheim for him. And obviously Gavin Halls, I think, was the other driver who took the race victory. Do correct me if I'm slightly misremembering it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely thought that. Yeah, so race 1, obviously he took the race victory. So 2 race victors already around about the top 4, but we haven't even got the flying laps really in yet. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, of course, Spa, such a long circuit, so the drivers have got to get out there quickly and get up to speed. Also, since the iRacing update a couple of weeks ago, the track limits have actually been liberated slightly here at Spa, so the drivers can push a little bit more. Before, they were very, very harsh indeed. Now, this is interesting. The two Porsche Sport teammates working together here, it looks like. Gavin Hall's in the 38 car, Ryan Parkin's in the 25 car there. So Paul Riga in the 7 car there as well. So the Porsche Sport team clearly making full use of the aerodynamic slipstream in this group qualifying session. And of course, Gavin, the driver, setting very much the quick pace so far. So interesting, Jack, that they're creating a bit of a Porsche train here.
Yeah, exactly that, and it's worth noting as well on the side of these cars, well, some of them anyway, have sharkebikes.com. Now, Shark E-Bikes is one of the partners for the SRW European Porsche Cup, so a big shout out to them. If you want to have a go and check out what they are supplying, then you can go to sharkbikes.com. I'm about to stick it in the comments. It's not in the description, but it will be in the comments as soon as I've stopped talking, basically. But a big thank you to them, and hopefully we can see them having some good racing here. They're nearly always at the top of any Porsche racing they do, aren't they? Pete, you know better than me, but you're right. This sort of partnership and this teamwork really plays dividends at places like Spa.
Yes, it does. It's such a big, fast circuit where that draft can be very important. But Gavin Halls has backed out of his qualifying lap and let his teammate go through. You can also see Carl Sharkey in the 17 car of Shark E-Bikes. So, yeah, have a look on there as well, because if you maybe fancy the idea of going on a nice cycle of a weekend, but don't fancy getting yourself into a pool of sweat or having to put on fancy Leica, get yourself an e-bike. You just charge up the hills. You got a little turbo boost sort of button and whoosh, up the hill you go. And do you know why they're called Shark E-Bikes, Jack?
Is it something to do with Carl Sharkey by any chance?
Well, no, it's because they're made in Yorkshire.
Is it really? I've no
Well,
idea.
apparently the business is based in Yorkshire, but it's because they're e-bikes.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
I see it now. Yeah, I'll give you
Good
that
night.
one though. But to be honest, living in Yorkshire, it's full of hills. I could do with an e-bike around sometimes. It's just absolutely killer on the old legs.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's where the what better place to buy your e-bike from than in a place like the Yorkshire Dales, where it's obviously so hilly. Anyway, there you go for your electric. Do not go out and buy an e-bike unless it's from Shark e-bikes. Otherwise, you'll have me and Jack Oliphant to deal with, and you don't want that. The jokes are just awful. Halfway through this qualifying session, and at the moment Gavin Halls leads from Matthew Crisp. We've got, see, there's a nice little spread of drivers here as well. You can see Miguel Freitas up into the top 10 as well. And good respect from the drivers as well. I'll tell you what, the MotoGP paddock could learn a bit from these drivers about qualifying discipline, because goodness me, they are the world's worst for touring about slowly on the racing line in qualifying.
Yeah, well, we're obviously just keeping an eye on Sam Bentham here, and the reason being is actually because he's switched teams. He was a privateer, so you could argue say he hasn't switched teams, but he has joined a team, you could argue. He's now driving for Westech Autosport, which I believe is actually in conjunction with one of our commentating buddies here on SRW, and Jack Werrell. He sent me a message before, and he said, make sure that Sam Bentham's team name gets changed, as he's now racing for Westech. So there you go, Jack. If you're watching this, we managed to oblige, even though you didn't remind me like I asked, but we're here anyway. So Sam Bentham racing for the team, and he's cracked into the top 5. And another reason why we're keeping an eye on him as well is because he's on he's not going faster anymore, unfortunately. He was on a fairly decent lap, but he's only 0.02 of a second behind Lewis Ward, who is going pretty quickly. Not necessarily going quickly in this lap either, but another highlight of how close these Porsches are going to get to each other. Bentham, Parkins and Greatorex all within about a tenth of each other.
Yeah, and the thing is that Spa is such a long lap as well, so to be separated by such a small margin is quite extraordinary as well. It's we see Chris Wood up there in third position as well, just a couple of tenths covering more or less the top 5, maybe three tenths possibly. Parkins pulls out of his qualifying lap. Now, if he wants one more, he's going to have to get back going again, and it'll be a one-lap dash. The thing with that is, of course, you can then put literally 2 laps of fuel in the car as well, which is really important again for the fast straights.
Yeah, exactly. We're just having a look at some of the gaps further down. Look at that, Barnes to Phaeton. John Barnes to Milan Phaeton's there, 1,000th of a second. That's a bit of a gutting one for John Barnes, isn't it? And I suppose maybe, are they thinking, is it quicker to stop on the racetrack, tow themselves in to change all their setup and tyres and everything, rather than do an entire in-lap because they don't have enough fuel in the car? Be an interesting way of thinking about it, but we're just seeing an awful lot of drivers stop on the circuit just so they can spawn back to the pits, and I'm thinking maybe that's because it's such a long lap here.
Yeah, of course. The good thing is it's in qualifying it's an instant tow, so you automatically teleport back to pit lane. Unlike if you crashed in the race and had to tow back, you would have to wait for the virtual tow truck to come and get you, and it could be a couple of minutes. But in qualifying, you can if you fluff a lap, which is easy to do here at Spa. Even with the relaxed track limits, it's still easy to just bite off a little bit more than you maybe should do. So looks like Gavin Halls is going to get at least one. In fact, no, just one, maximum 2 quick laps here for Gavin Halls. Now, I don't see Chris Walsh with us tonight, unless he hasn't set a time yet.
No, the only driver who hasn't set a time yet is Stuart Musselwhite, new to the championship for Simracers Esports. So yeah, we don't see him.
Ah, well, that's a shame. Our resident bobsleigh racer is missing out this round. Then that's a pity. That is a shame. So, can Matthew Crisp do anything to stop Gavin Halls? He's going out on his out lap now, trying to get everything up to just the right temperatures. Oh, big crash behind, which I think was Bentham. Was it Bentham? He's had a massive shunt. No, it wasn't. Oh, the driver's towed now as well. Might have been Woodhouse possibly. Craig Schill got there in the end. West Tech Autosport. So is this young Mr. Werrell's team then?
I believe it is, yeah. I think I don't want to shout about it too quickly and get it slightly wrong, but I do remember him saying that he was going to start a team when we were doing the Sunday Drivers Club, and I believe Wes Tech is that team. So here we go. He's got a fair few drivers representing him tonight.
Oh, and he's got a kind of a sort of Chinese knockoff of the Hyundai N badge on there as well.
Yeah, you can take him up with that one. It does look like it, doesn't it? Though you can take the livery choice up with Jack Werrell there, Pete. I'll let you fight that.
I like the colours. Apart from that, I like it. It's nice.
Yeah, the i30N in with all the Porsche cars. It'd be an entertaining race, wouldn't it? It'd be a slow one on the grid, but it'd be entertaining.
Well, I'll tell you what, the i20N, which is just about to launch in Europe, is they did it complete. Well, although it was quite a short Nürburgring 24-hour with about 12 hours of red flag, but that little i20N ran without fuss the whole weekend in just normal road car with a roll cage. That was it, and it just went round and round and round, and it actually won its class because it was in a class of its own.
Well, I mean, that's the ultimate glory, isn't it? When you're winning at the Nürburgring, enter yourself in your own class. That's one way to guarantee, isn't it? How did the Dacia get on, actually? Because I saw there was a Dacia Sandero or something racing in the Nürburgring. Can you remember how that got on?
Dacia Logan. Now, I don't think it won its class. It actually, there were 5 in that class, which was including the Opel Manta. There was a Toyota GT86. There was a Toyota Corolla Altis from Toyota Team Thailand as well. I can't for the life of me, but no, it wasn't the Dacia Logan. What I did like though was that the Dacia logo photobombed Kevin Estra when he was coming over the line to take the win. Like the Dacia's in the perfect foreground as Estra comes over. What that meant though, of course, that the poor little Dacia had to do a whole nother lap.
Crikey Moses, that's the ultimate the ultimate marketing though for Dacia, isn't it? No, they can't win the race, but we'll cross the line with the winner. Everybody will think we've been there. It'll be fine. We'll be all over the place.
I think that was. It could have quite easily been deliberate. I hadn't actually thought of that up to now, but you could be right.
Well, it's like the Le Mans,
I don't think it was a works team though. Somehow, I don't think there's such a thing as the Dacia works team.
There definitely should be, and I'm all for advocating Dacia having an actual race team because that'd be absolutely incredible. I hope we race it. I hope it comes to iRacing, and I hope we cover it in SRW. That's for sure. Not many people out there improving it. Well, there's not many people out there at all at the moment. The top 3 are currently out there, but they haven't improved in the slightest at the moment on the previous couple of laps. In fact, Chris Wood's come in and Gavin Halls is thinking about it. In fact, he has come in pretty much. Adam Delmont in 11th place and Jaco van der Plaat, he's currently in 12th. These are the only real drivers who are looking to improve. Lee Deemers for Excite Racing. You won't miss that car, that's for sure, Pete. He's actually looking to have a little bit of a few green sectors here and there, but again, I don't think anybody's going to set the world alight. So we're likely seeing the top 10 staying as it is for the next 2 minutes.
That Excite car looks like, in the nicest possible way, that looks like it's crashed through the Dulux, the Dulux section in B&Q. My God, there's about every possible colour. Try and count them all. There's a game. Try and count all the colours on the Excite. But they do have Whoa! You'll get a good look at it now. Oh dear. Oh yes. Well, it's been 20 years since the original Fast and the Furious, and that move wouldn't have looked out of place in that film.
No, I thought we were going to lose a couple of the paints as they went onto the tyre walls there, but actually Deemer got away with it, didn't he? I remember covering Excite for, I think Adam Delmont was in it and Adam McNally for the PMR touring car series that they did as soon as lockdown happened in the UK sort of thing. And back then, it was a very much more understated car. It was sort of just blue, black and silver. Then they added some gold in. Now they've gone for lime green and stuck some orange in there and everything else. And it is looking a little bit much, I have to say. But you do recognise them. They do definitely stand out on a broadcast, don't they? Gavin Halls has just gone quicker. I said no one's going quicker. Well, he put in a purple sector 3 and a green sector 5. So it didn't look anything spectacular. But it has meant that he's pulled another half a tenth out of the bag.
It was just showing off. He already was ahead. But yeah, Gavin Halls backing up a brilliant performance at Hockenheim with a sprint race win, beating Ryan Parkins, who started. Ryan Parkins actually started on pole. Gavin Halls started, I think it was 4th or 5th, but really was on imperious form. So we'll see what he's got in the tank tonight. Certainly on pole by a couple of tenths. That's pretty good. And, well, you can say he'll be followed by Matthew Crisp, Chris Wood, Miguel Freitas. Good lap for Miguel Freitas, the touring car ace from Porto. And we're just about to tick over the 20 minutes for qualifying, and we'll be ready to go for the first sprint race here, round 3 of the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. So starting on pole position, Gavin Halls, all the way out in Bahrain, alongside Matthew Crisp on row 1. Chris Wood and Miguel Freitas start on row 2, with Lewis Ward and Sam Bentham on the 3rd row. Ryan Parkins will start from 7th, followed by Austin Greatorex, Paul Riga and Adam McNally. Adam Delmont will start 11th, with Jaco van der Plat starting 12th. Jan Goosens will start from 13th, followed by Lee Deemer, Mark Woodhouse, Michael Blake, Niles de Kuiper, Mark Phillips, Milan Phaetons, and John Barnes. Jason Rowe will start from 21st, followed by Jeroen Kaiser, Craig Schill, and Wayne Palmer rounds out the first 24. And finally, Paul Godden and Stuart Musselwhite. Nice to see that we've got Mark Bernie Phillips with us tonight in the 17 car. He sneaked in there under the radar in qualifying. Of course, Mark Phillips, the Bernie Eccleston of Porsche Club Sim Racing. He's the boss man, and you don't mess with him, or else.
Well, no, starting right in the middle of the pack, though, he's in a bit of a danger, isn't he? Hopefully he comes off all unscathed through the first couple of corners.
Well, we shall see. Of course, these Porsche 911 GT3 Cup machines do not have any anti-lock braking system, so the drivers are completely on their own, and when the brakes are cold, they can tend to, should we say, just bite a little bit too much, and it's easy to lock up a tire. So, and heading into La Source, the notorious turn 1 here at Spa, very, very easy to get into a bit of a pile-up. Hopefully all the drivers will get through clean. Most of them now prepared on the grid, and we're ready to go racing for 20 minutes here at Spa Francorchamps. Should be about 9 laps, I should say. 8 or 9 laps, I think, for this race. Lights are prepared then. The revs begin to rise. 485 horsepower each, about to be let loose. And we're racing at Spa in the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup, and it's a beautiful start for Gavin Halls. Makes it down to La Source nice and easily and takes it away in the lead. Now, do we all get through clean? Good respect for most of the drivers so far. In fact, all of the drivers, they all get through more or less completely clean and tidy. Very, very good. It's not easy to get through there at La Source clean, but through Eau Rouge they go. Halls from Chris, from Lewis Ward, and Chris Wood in 4th.
Yeah, we did lose Lee Deemer, unfortunately. He was the only one who ended up going sideways through turn 1 as they all come down the Camel Straight. Now, what a view that is, and what a sound it is as well, as the number 25 of Ryan Parkins comes out to fill the view, fill the mirrors of Miguel Freitas, but not good enough or close enough to try and make any kind of move. Maybe just thinking about putting the driver off. It's the Excite drivers in the background. Adam Delmont, I'll tell you what, Elston Greatorex and Paul Riga going side by side into team battle here. Hopefully they don't end in tears. There's a few more drivers. I think Jens Gudens has got involved as well, and actually Paul Riga's going backwards.
Yeah, just a little bit of a shaky start there for Paul Riga, just taking his time on the outside there. Mark Phillips goes through into 16th spot in the beautiful red and black Miller's Oils Strasse Porsche machine. A nice replica of their Porsche race cars, which race in the PCGB Championships. Gavin Halls leads away here at Spa as they come through Pouon and into the Vanya chicane. And Ryan Parkins doing what Ryan Parkins does best, of running very nice and neat and tidy and not taking any unnecessary risk. If he's got the pace, he'll move through in his own time. If he doesn't, he'll just take home the points. That's the Parkins style, and it's very, very difficult to beat.
It is indeed, but he has got Sam Bentham in the Westech Autosport. Obviously, team principal Jack Werrell is in the chat and is very angry at Pete MacKay for his i30N reference, the knockoff N on the front of his bonnet. So I think you'll have to have an apology for that. But Bentham, I thought he was going to carry around to the inside, and Lewis Ward up ahead actually, I think is having to go up the inside. In fact, I thought he was defending, but no, he's on the offensive against Matthew Crisp, and a great move around the outside of the last corner. corner has allowed Chris Wood to get in on the action against Matthew Crisp, when Crisp could lose 2 places in a matter of 2 corners.
Yeah, it looks like Chris Wood he's got the inside line in the half Team Mad, half Repsol Honda liveried machine, and that little bit of bickering there is just what Gavin Halls needs to break away. Of course, particularly in the opening sectors of this track, it's the draft is pretty important as well, as when you come out of Eau Rouge and onto the Kemmel Straight, you can get a really good run on your competitors, but Gavin Halls has broken it at the moment. But Lewis Ward's really in a rich vein of form. He races a lot in this car, and he is really, really in a purple patch at the moment. So don't be surprised if Lewis Ward is able to chase down the leader, Gavin Halls.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that Ryan Parkins was having a little nibble on Miguel Freitas. It's more than a nibble. He's taken a chunk out of him, hasn't he? Shark E-Bike's driver going up the inside, going down towards the right-hander now. Is he going to have his name still in lights? He has indeed. So Ryan Parkins slips himself up to 5th place and keeps the position.
Ryan Parkins, the King Hippo, up to 5th position now, and off in hot pursuit of Chris Wood up ahead. Lots of Team Mad drivers up here as well, of course. We've got Chris Wood for Team Mad and Miguel Freitas as well, and of course the Sam Bentham in the Westech Hyundai NB team.
I just remembered what you said. I was looking at sector times and realised what you said then. Yes, no, absolutely. And to be fair though, Bentham, he dropped off, didn't he? And he's actually gained himself back because these drivers are bickering. In fact, the Excite drivers and Adam McNally and Adam Delmont are almost in the mix. So initially, it looked like the top 5 are really driven away, but just 2 moves later, and they've invited the rest of the top 10 to come along for the ride with them, haven't they? Whether or not the rest of them will be able to keep up on pace is another matter. But I tell you what, Pete, Gavin Halls, 1.3 seconds the good ahead of Lewis Ward at the moment. Ward's got good pace, but Halls in imperious form after the first sort of weekend at first evening, shall I say, at Hockenheim, stuck on pole position. It looks like it's the important thing is he did about 3 or 4 laps putting in those pole position times, didn't he? So he can have the consistency to go with the driving.
Very good point indeed, and yeah, fastest lap of the race, 1:21.272, but Ward goes half a tenth quicker than Halls there as well, so almost identical times. Now I do apologise, dear viewer, we are on a 30-minute race, not a 20-minute race, and a 40-minute feature. I do apologise. So this is the race where we race to the flag without a pit stop. Next one we do. Oh, it's Milan Phaetons. Has a bit of a spin. At least you can see if there's a car coming there. Oh, sticks it in reverse. That's an interesting, flick turn. Yep, there you go. Not a bad turning circle actually on a 911.
Yeah, it helps when you've got 400 horsepower to spin the rear wheels to go with it, doesn't it? But let's have a quick look at how on earth he did it. I think it's the classic Porsche spin, isn't it? Where the rear end goes a little bit too heavy, a little bit too much momentum, a little bit too much power. All culminates in a spin around from the rear end, doesn't it, for Milan Phaetons? And I'm just going to have a quick look as well, as we are having a look at the replays. A Lee Demon's crash on the first lap here. Oh, he's in a right melee, isn't he? The Excite driver just goes straight on, though, and just seems to pull up. So we said that it was all clean apart from Lee Deemer. Well, I'd say Lee was pretty clean there as well. He just got unlucky.
That's a strange one. Yeah, it just pulls it over. That's very, very odd. Maybe something technical gone wrong, or something to deal with. Funny, interesting one there. So back further up a little bit as well. Craig Schill for Westech Autosport in 18th position at the moment with John Barnes. There's plenty of John Barnes references we could make. Was it not him who did that? There was a really naff song that John Barnes once sung.
3 lines on our chest. We got it with
was it that one?
Around the back. I think that was John Barnes. Yeah, I can't actually remember the ultimate lyrics. But I imagine not probably this John Barnes, probably not Quantum Racing John Barnes, but certainly the footballer. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I mean, yeah. Oh, Porsche Sport not happy with that one as well. Well, if Porsche Sport, if Luke had been in the if he'd been in the car, then he wouldn't have heard that one, of course.
No, he wouldn't. Look at this, Adam Delmont and Austin Greater Porsche Sport 912 going side by side again. The last chicane offering up an opportunity for a little bit of close driving and a little bit of overtaking opportunities. down into La Source. It's still Adam Delmont ahead of Greater X, even though Greater X was trying all he could. As they go through Eau Rouge and out of Radion, what's going to be the crack here? It is Adam Delmont. I thought he was going to have to defend into Eau Rouge there, but luckily Greater X thought better of it. Get the run out of Radion, get up through the Camel Straight and see what you can do, because all of a sudden Delmont goes a little bit wide, keeps it the car together, but has that scuppered in by half a mile an hour, and will that be Greater X's opportunity?
Well, Greater X is absolutely shadowing. You can barely see Greater X behind the wing there. Goes for the inside, and oh, it gets squeezed really heavy there by Delmont, and oh, they get together. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Oh, that is just a bit unnecessary. Austin was alongside, and it just seems like Delmont sort of did a bit of mirror driving there. I don't know.
Let's have a look. It could well have been a little bit of net code. We'll slow it down slightly. I think there was going to be a bit of contact there.
Oh, God.
As they come over the curb, Greater X, I think his car just gets launched out the way and out into the outside of him. So, yeah, just coming together, unfortunately.
Oh, dearie me. That's... Yeah, I have to be honest, if I was Austin Greater X, I'd be pretty angry at that one, because Delmont just sort of squeezed him out, which is a bit not on. There's plenty of room there to go 2x2 at Lakeholm. Well, tell you what, Greater X had no luck last week at Hockenheim. He's got no luck again this week, and he'll be hoping, yeah, well, mind you, in 15th position at the moment, if he can keep in the top 20, he'll still get the reverse grid. And if he finishes where he is right now, he would start 5th for the reverse grid race. And, you know, once Austin gets into his rhythm, he's very, very quick. In fact, he's been driving his Porsche 911 Turbo S at Goodwood this week. And apparently one of those cars is so quick it does 155 miles an hour down the back part of the circuit.
Oh, that's incredible. Goodwood's such a small, twisty, windy circuit. That is absolutely madness, isn't it?
I think it gets pretty quick out the back because you got lots of, you know, real swooping corners as well.
That's very true. Just whether or not you're
that's
brave enough to drive it at that speed, I suppose, is the other question, isn't it?
Well, it's not a cheap car. I wouldn't want to put that in the barrier as well. Yeah, brave boy indeed. So, third of the race down, on to the 5th lap of the race. Gavin Hall still leads then from Lewis Ward, Matthew Chris. Ryan Parkin's now up to 4th. So, Parkin's just tiptoeing his way to the front like he normally does.
Yeah, exactly that. Lewis Ward getting 3 positions, did 2 of them on the opening lap, but here comes, sorry, I completely missed that, Adam McNally on the Westech Racing Sam Bentham, and Bentham didn't really look like he put up much of a fight there. I don't know if I just missed something, but Adam McNally goes wide through the chicane and missed the second apex, and that's allowed Bentham to go straight back through.
Yep, Bentham gets the move done then. Whoa, it makes a mistake, and then, oh, McNally follows him in sympathy, I think. Dearie me, watch the end, badges. Jeez.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that. We'll start from the actual chicane. So here's Adam McNally going off the track and having to lose out the position to Sam Bentham, didn't he? And then as Bentham goes back through, go down the hill. It is a tricky braking zone down the hill here at Spa, isn't it? And it's very easy to lock up or go straight on. But you're right, McNally just seems to, he sees the twitch of Bentham and he seems to just follow him in. Very strange.
What is it they call it? Target fixation.
Probably, yes. I imagine that's probably exactly what that was.
Happens a lot in the motorcycle world as well. You can easily get sucked in by following a driver too closely. But Greater X has got back going again after what looked like a pretty heavy accident. His mirror's hanging off. It's sort of drooping down. A pink mirror drooping down. Never good. But Greater X now battling with Mark Phillips. Phillips goes to the inside. Oh, and gives Austin the wave by there. Sometimes good idea to do that if you feel somebody's a lot faster. It's sometimes just not worth trying to throw blocks everywhere because you end up making your own result worse. Because let's be honest, they're going to get by eventually, and you just slowed yourself down. So you can sometimes, if you think they're much quicker, drop in behind and try and get pulled along for a couple of laps. And I think that's what Mark Phillips was thinking there.
Well, let's face it, if you look at the where they started on the grid, Austin Greater X started within the top 10. I think he started 8th. Mark Phillips started in 18th. So there's a 10-place difference in speed, you could say, from qualifying. So, yeah, if you are Mark Phillips, why not try and get that toe from Austin Greatorex? Maybe, he's obviously losing him a little bit here, but he's every opportunity to pull away from Jason Rowe, who is behind Phillips, and use that sort of toe to try and learn something from the driver ahead as well. I think that's, that target central thing that you were talking about with Adam McNally just before. Realistically, that's maybe because he was looking at the driver and maybe seeing where is he quicker. Oh, contact just ahead. Jaco van der Plat is in the tyre wall, and well, I saw that he was overtaking. I thought it was going to be fairly standard, so I carried on my story, but that is very unfortunate for Jaco van der Plat.
Oh dear, it just gets quarter panelled there as well. Let's have a look then.
It's with Adam Delmont, isn't it? It's
again, yeah. Dear me. Well, I think they might be the Excite Racing team, but I think the other drivers might be calling that they might be using an expletive for them at the moment, because that is pretty unceremonious.
It did seem to be a definite turning of the wheel, didn't he, as he looking for the apex. I mean, he probably just had misjudged it. Maybe he's going for the apex, and maybe he thought that Jaco had outbraked himself. I don't know, I'm trying to give him excuses here, but hopefully everybody will be friends come the end of the evening, as we're looking at Jans Goosens and Mark Woodhouse for Team Mad, getting nice and close with each other as they're coming out towards the Blanchimont sort of section of the track, with just under halfway done now. It's absolutely flown by this race. There's battles pretty much everywhere you look.
They are indeed, yeah, up and down the field here in the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup, round 2 of the season. And at the moment, Gavin Hall's in a good spot to make his... Whoa! Jan Gilson's rally crossing over the curbs there. Goodness me, that was a bit violent. Dear me. But yes, about half race distance now as well, as both drivers I think have been given a slowdown penalty, which they're currently serving. And he'll get back into the throttle. That gives Greatorex a couple of bonus balls there, and he's now back up to 9th despite that little incident early on. So of course Spa absolutely drenched in heritage for motor racing. You know, Juan Manuel Fangio won the first Belgian Grand Prix here all the way back in 1950, but you hear amazing stories from the old days of when the circuit was a lot longer and a lot faster than it already is today. Back in 1973, Henry Pescarolo qualified his V12 Matra here at an average speed of 262 kilometers an hour.
I don't normally call out that you're lying, but that must be a fake stat. That is absolutely incredible. I'm sure it isn't a fake stat. I wouldn't believe that you would bring us anything but pure solid facts here, Pete. But that is quite mind-bending, isn't it? It's incredible to think that the average speed of a lap can be, plus 250 kilometers an hour. I mean, I work in miles per hour, but even I know that that's ridiculously quick.
That's like 160 average. Yeah, that's nuts. But the circuit was completely different to what it is. Well, it was a lot more extreme than it is now, which is still pretty extreme. It's just, if you can imagine it being stretched out in a lot more long straights as well. I mean, Jim Clark for the 1967 Belgian Grand Prix qualified his Lotus 49 at over 150 miles an hour. In the 60s. That's in an open top. That's frightening. The Matra was an open top car as well, but that was when Dan Gurney won in his own car in the Eagle.
I mean, it's quite incredible, because realistically, obviously 260 kilometers an hour, if you were in a modern day GT3 car, let's say, or Kevin Estra's Porsche, let's say, and he was doing that at average speed, you probably wouldn't even feel it. You probably wouldn't even know he's going more than 100 miles an hour, because it's sort of that well put together. But back in the 70s and the 60s, I mean, that must have been terrifying to be doing, wasn't it? And an experience like no other, I'm sure. No other experience would ever get him that pumped up, I'm sure. But yeah, incredible to see. Luckily, everything's a little bit safer than it was, but it would be quite nice to see those kind of laps been put in again, wouldn't it? In something out there. I mean, it'd be sensational to watch those sort of old layouts come back a little bit.
Well, it would only be in the virtual world now.
Well,
I think most of it's been grown over.
Yeah, exactly. That's
and
what I
the
mean.
trees are in the way. But yeah, it's. I remember So when Jim Clark very first raced here back in the 50s, when he signed for Border Reivers with Jock McBain, and his sponsor Ian Scott Watson had a little Porsche 356, the little the first ever Porsche model actually, and they drove it all the way down from Scotland, but it was actually warned by David Murray of Ecurie Ecosse, saying that maybe for someone of Jim's experience, which wasn't much at the time, it's maybe not a good idea to go and race at Spa because it had such a fearsome reputation. But they went anyway, and he did the race in the D-type. And bear in mind, Jim Clark, not a man who, not one of the fastest drivers ever to live. And apparently that first race at Spa, he was just quite happy to see the pit lane at the end because it was so frightening.
It's incredible, though, isn't it? Advising someone like Jim Clark. Maybe you want to sit this one out.
Yeah.
I think that might be a little bit above your skill level. Absolutely, it's mad, isn't it? To what he came.
He wasn't really Jim Clark at that point. He was a young club racer from the Borders. But very quickly they thought, well, he's quite good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a bit of pace about him, this guy. And the best thing is he probably went back the next weekend somewhere else and probably won a touring car race or something, or whatever else he was racing in that year. Which is something that you would love to see, wouldn't you, these days? The sort of top level motorsport guys just dropping in, come and do another club race, crack over to Knockhill, do a bit of Legends racing or something that you were watching last week. It'd be absolutely brilliant. It just doesn't happen the same way, does it, anymore?
Oh, it is quite different. I mean, the other thing would be that all the races they would go to with the Border Reivers Jaguar D-Type, they would race the D-Type, but also they would drive there in a Porsche in the 356, and they would race the 356 in the sports car race as well, in the production race. So that little Porsche 356 went through its paces and did nearly 100,000 miles in the hands of Ian Scott Watson and then Jim Clark, who then bought it off Ian. So yeah, it is a different world now. How most of the time for racing you need a purpose-built race car. So yeah, very 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 cool indeed. A different age for good and for bad, that's for sure. So about 2/3 distance now. Gavin Hall's really in control of this motor race and looking very strong indeed, but of course came unstuck, not by any fault of his own, but came unstuck in race 2 with the no other word to describe it, the roadblock that we found at turn 1 at Hockenheim in the reverse grid race.
Yeah, and that's the sort of danger, isn't it? That although he could be enjoying himself thoroughly in qualifying, thoroughly enjoying himself here, obviously, leading the race by about a second. Lewis Ward did at one point get it down to about half a second, but Hall's probably opened the taps up a little bit more and thought, you know what, if you're going to get that close, I'll start taking an extra mile an hour through every corner, and he's eked out that extra half a second back to 1.2. But the reverse grid is a completely different kettle of fish. Obviously, you can have those roadblocks, as you so kindly mentioned, through turn 1, and it can scupper your races. Hopefully it doesn't scupper championships though, and I think as Gavin Halls is proving, if you can win race 1 consistently, then although you're in a bit of a sticky situation for race 2, if everybody keeps it as clean as they did in this race, he's got every opportunity at carving his way through the field. I mean, Lewis Ward, he's gained 3 positions off the start, and Ryan Parkins as well, he's up to 4th place now for Porsche Sport. Matthew Crisp is doing a good job. So, I mean, the top guys are banking points. I think that's what we're seeing right now, isn't it? The top guys are banking their points for race 1 because race 2 is a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah, it is indeed. I think if you can get the points on the board, you got to do it. You can't. No point, dropping back to finish starting on pole for race 2 unless you've already hit problems. No, but for Gavin Hall's doing exactly what he needs to do, and look how close those lap times are. 2:22.4 for both Halls and Ward. Crisp not far behind, 2:22.6, who in turn Ryan Parkins almost exactly the same time as Crisp. So good run from Parkins as well. Moved forward a couple of spots, and of course that means then that he'll start. What will that be? That'll be 16th. He will start on the grid. In fact, 17th. You would get that wrong. 17th will start on the grid as well. So a little bit further ahead than the front runners. Yeah,
it's Jaco van der Plas and John Barnes going out. Obviously, both of these drivers I think have been collected a little bit. Oh, John Barnes collecting himself, I think. Oh, no, he's kept it at the wall. That was very lucky. Jacko going through, and I think Wayne Palmer might have a little bit of a nibble here going towards Eau Rouge. It's not really ideal for either driver, I'd say. Wayne Palmer won't want to get his run ruined and maybe lose sort of track of where Jacco van der Plat is, but he has done a little bit. There's a bit of a gap. Pole position man at the moment is a driver that you can see just in the background now, who's looking to the inside to maybe fill the mirrors of John Barnes. Is Paul Godin. He will be on pole for race number 2 if it stays that way for the next 8 minutes, but this little battle looks like it could seriously change in that time, so probably realistically someone in this train is going to be on pole position for race 2, so keep an eye out for them. But at the moment, we'll just keep an eye out on this one as Godin goes around the outside looking for a cutback potentially, but it's such a long corner, isn't it? There's really no opportunity to open it up, and obviously you're going straight into the left-hander no name. Not really an opportunity for an overtaking manoeuvre. Miguel Frutas has Adam McNally for company. The Excite drivers have been fairly present, shall we say, in all the drama that's today.
Yeah, that would be correct. I think that would be fair to say. Miguel from the former SRW TCR champion, so going from one tin top to another, and going to give the Porsche a go in that 999 machine. And Miguel from Porto in Portugal, where all those wonderful dessert wines come from. Well, not always dessert wines. You can get more aperitif ports as well, but. I do like it, but yeah, getting the bottle of port passed around the table, always to the left.
You've lost me slightly when you started talking about wine and port. To be honest, I'm sure they do a fantastic range, but I've never actually enjoyed much of a good wine, so I'll have to take your word for that one, Pete.
I mean, it's no pint of John Smith's. Let's be honest.
No, I mean, it could be. To be honest, I don't like. I'm really rubbish, aren't I? I like cider and I like whiskey, and I'm sure you could. Are you a whiskey fan out there, Pete?
Hey, I used to work in the whiskey industry.
I thought you did. That's why I brought it up. You used to be a salesman, didn't you?
I did, and my good lady Lucy still works in the whiskey business. So yes, indeed. What's your tipple of choice?
I'm normally a sort of bourbon kind of guy, but to be honest, any time I go out, I just say, "What's your sort of scotch?" And they just say, "Oh, well, we got this, that, and the other." And I go, "Yeah, we'll have one of them, two of them, and we'll just try them out," sort of thing. It's always good fun. Some of the best presents that I've got is a Scotch whiskey tasting sort of thing for my birthday that my girlfriend got me, and it was really enjoyable. It's actually made us want to do not only the North 500, obviously road trip, but stop off at a few distilleries and see how it all gets made. It'd be really cool.
Well, give us a shout. Can sort that out for you. Not a problem. Well, 5 minutes to go here in the opening sprint race at Spa. And Gavin Hall's well in control at the moment. Lewis Ward just a little bit back in second spot. Matthew Crispin third. Ryan Parkins fourth and Chris Wood fifth. So, and we'll see how is it going to shake out in the feature race. Of course, don't forget 40-minute race instead, and also with a compulsory pit stop. And I think that is going to play a lot of maybe havoc on how the race shakes out, and sometimes we don't necessarily get an impression of how it will shake out until the very last moment when the last drivers come in for their pit stop. So let's see what they've got up their sleeves.
Everything's just calmed down a touch now, hasn't it, Pete?
Yeah.
Really, everybody seems to have settled in, seems to be pretty happy with where they are at the moment. But obviously, I mean, we're talking about the pit stop in the second race. That's an opportunity. Obviously, they have to do it. It's mandatory. There's an opportunity to stick tyres on. I'm wondering if, because I've covered Porsche racing before at Spa, and it is a little bit tricky on the tyres. You know, there is quite a few slow, although it's famed for sort of its speed, Spa, around the Kemmel Straight and everything like that. The new addition, and we've just been speaking about, obviously, the old speeds they used to get up to on the old layout. There is a fair few sort of slower corners which do require some nice, precise throttle control. And when you've got the sort of rear-heavy 400-odd horsepower or 500-odd horsepower cars that we have running around the circuit at the moment, rear tyres do seem to lose a little bit of life from what I've experienced before. So it's going to be interesting to see if anyone, I don't think anyone did at Hockenheim, decides to switch tyres and go if they're, if they think they're losing out on track time. From a perspective, they've realistically only lost about a second, if that, some of the drivers out there at the moment on lap times from the start. So maybe it's not going to be that big a deal.
No, these Michelin tyres are pretty resilient, and for whatever reason in iRacing the tyres take forever to change over. So you've really got to. It is a big investment in time, and on a race of 40 minutes, it's not going to be a good investment, unfortunately, as well. But good job, the Michelin man's done his work, and the tyres will fade a bit at the end of the race, I think, but not so much that it would warrant changing them at the stop. So we'll see. I think it's going to all be about track position and whether you're held up by a driver in front or whether you're getting towed along. It can very much depend from situation to situation. So the Team Mad drivers here, Michael Blake and Mark Rowe in front. Jason Rowe, I'm apologizing. Mark Rowe was a golfer. My apologies.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well, aren't they? About 13th, 14th between them. But Team Mad generally, I mean, they're in 5th and 6th with Chris Wood and Miguel Freitas as well. So they're pretty well represented. Mark Woodhouse is in 11th as well. Pretty well represented throughout the sort of board, shall we say. A couple of drivers who haven't probably enjoyed this race as much as others. Adam Delmont, he's lost 10 positions. He's currently in 21st. Obviously had that incident going into the chicane at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Lee Deemer, he just went straight on, another Excite driver. Niels de Cooper, now I'm not entirely sure what happened to him, but he lost 6 positions. He's right at the back. And Stuart Musselwhite, new to the series, he's only completed 4 laps, and I think he's in the pit lane. So he certainly hasn't enjoyed his evening. But other drivers who have done certainly well is the driver you currently got on your screen, as I think the white flag has just been thrown, but Jason Rowe has gained 8 positions. Mark Phillips, he's up 6 positions in 12th place, the big boss, as well as Wayne Palmer's up 8, and Paul Godin is up 6 as well. So a few drivers having good, a few drivers having bad days, but all in all, the top 10 have been fairly immovable. They've only moved a couple of positions at the start of the race.
Keep an eye out for Paul Riga in race 2. It's big slide there from McNally. Wow. Yeah, keep an eye out for Paul Riga at this very circuit in season 1 of the Porsche Club of Great Britain Sim Racing Championship. Paul Riga started on pole in the reverse grid race and absolutely disappeared. Got into his rhythm and did not look back. So the moment he's sitting in 17th, so that would start him on the outside of row 2. But keep an eye out for Paul Anchors Riga. Why do we call him Anchors? Because he's one of the latest breakers in the field.
Your memory of individual races, and you've covered an awful lot of races, Pete, astounds me to this day, honestly. It is fantastic when you just pick a peach out of just a random name in a random series and just think, yeah, I can remember a fantastic performance that they had. But I'm sure Paul Riga's performance was damn good, and hopefully we see another one coming up sooner rather than later. The Amida Simulation Shark e-bikes team will be certainly hoping for a repeat as well. Gavin Hall's Porsche Sport 911 team, it's been an absolute dominant display from qualifying on pole position to taking the checkered flag here at the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup here at Spa. Gavin Halls takes round 3. Lewis Ward takes 2nd place. Matthew Crisp comes across the line to finish the top 3.
So about equidistant there in the podium spots. Ryan Parkins home in 4th, Chris Wood 5th. So it's a good job for Team Mad. Now I think McNally's had a spin coming out the last corner. He has. Oh dear. A little bit too much excitement there. And Austin Greatorex just pips him on the line for 8th spot. So despite that that controversial incident earlier on, Greatorex manages to fight back to 8th spot. Mark Phillips puts in his best lap of the race on the last lap there, so still plenty of life in the tyres there on Bernie's number 17 machine. And who is going to get our reverse grid pole? It's Phaeton's, and the driver you do not want to be is the driver in 21st, and that's Adam Delmont, who is one position away from that reverse grid pole. I've been there, and I can assure you, it really stings.
Yeah, I mean, I think from Adam Delmont's race that we've seen, I think there's probably quite a few reasons why you might not want to be him right now after that race one. It's not just because he's come 21st. He was involved in a fair few incidents that hopefully get sorted out by the stewards and everything like that. So I'm sure they'll be taken to him if obviously they feel like it's needed. In the end of the day, I think it was Milan Phaetons who was actually one of the drivers who was involved in the incident going down at the end of the Kemmel Straight. He ended up on pole position for race number 2, so we'll see what happens. We're just waiting for Craig Schill for WesTech Autosport just to come across the line. Then we'll be able to bring you the results for race number 1. Technically the sprint race, isn't it, Pete? Because obviously we've got a 40-minute race coming up for them for the guests and the viewers, basically 5 minutes after the end of this one.
That's right. Yes, that was very much the appetizer. We're now on to the full main steak dinner now, which is the feature race, a 20-place invert as well. So that means our front runners from race 1 have got a completely different race on their hands, where they've got to pick their way through the field and avoid any potential carnage. So a 7-minute warm-up session, and then we will be into the 40-minute feature. But here's your results then from race 1. Gavin Hall's the winner by just under 2 seconds from Matthew Crisp. Ryan Parkins finished in 4th, followed by Chris Wood, Miguel Freitas, Sam Bentham, Austin Greatorex. Great recovery from Austin Greatorex, with Adam McNally and Jens Goossens rounding out the top 10. Mark Woodhouse was 11th, followed by Mark Phillips, Michael Blake, Jason Rowe, Jaco van der Plat, Wayne Palmer, Paul Riga, and John Barnes rounds out the 18 drivers first over the line. Paul Gordon was 19th, and Milan Phaetons takes pole position for the feature race. Adam Delmont was 21st, followed by Jeroen Kaiser, Niles de Kuiper, Craig Schill, Lee Damer, and Stuart Musselwhite not making it to the flag. Well then, and of course we've got we've talked quite a bit about the only e-bike that you should consider purchasing, a Shark e-bike, but we should also have to thank Simmortal Sim Racing Models as well, who have very kindly lent their support to the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's fantastic to have so many brilliant partners coming along with SimRacersWorld, but obviously supporting the Porsche European Porsche Cup as well. Obviously, we've got Porsche Sport as well, obviously involved, as you can see in the graphic next to the website at the bottom of your screen there. And you're right, it's a couple of fantastic partners. Do be sure to go and check them out. They'll be in the description, probably as it's been edited after this race, and hopefully for the next races going forward. But if you want to check out Shark e-bikes, well, they are in the comments as well, so make sure I've put them in the comments somewhere. You can be sure to scroll up and have a look at Shark e-bikes. They are pretty cool pieces of kit, to be honest, and they're very much helpful if you do live in a slightly hilly area and maybe you're slightly new to biking. That's where I'm thinking of going, because I'm not fantastic at cycling. I'm not brilliant at driving either, which is why I'm here in the commentators box instead of out there in the racetrack. But it certainly does help, the thought of having a little bit of a battery just to help you up a few of the hills. Especially, I mean, look at Eau Rouge. You'd need a battery to get up that thing, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't just need any battery. You need a Shark e-bike battery as well to get up there, right? My dad's got quite into cycling. He did for his 60th birthday last year. He did a charity cycle, a 500-mile charity cycle in, I think it was 8 days or something, and it was less than that. It was about a week. And anyway, he obviously had to do a lot of training for that, and he's been back training again for his next charity ride. And he was out for a cycle with my auntie, who has an e-bike. Dad does not have an e-bike, and he said up the hills, he says, you got absolutely no chance. It's just e-bike just like hits on the flat. You don't need to use the battery, and but once you get to the hill, you just press the button and zoop, up you go.
It's like a little hybrid, isn't it? Some people would call it cheating.
Yeah.
I'd say it's having a slight advantage. It's just having that
Unfair
helping hand.
advantage.
Yeah, an unfair advantage, some might say. But yeah, I mean, obviously you commentate at Knock Hill quite a lot. Speaking of hills and stuff like that, you commentate at Knock Hill quite a lot, don't you? Do you ever see people running around the circuit? Because I know there's obviously people do track walks and stuff like that, but some people like to take the opportunity before the racing gets going to do a sort of morning run around some tracks. I've seen people do it around Alton Park, and they're running up cascades, and I'm just thinking, you are mental. And Knock Hill would be like intense hill training, surely.
Well, but believe it or not, they actually did a 24-hour cycle race.
Oh.
1 year, which is just every time you come around the hairpin, you must just be like, and then just as you go over the start finish line, you could probably freewheel from there all the way down to the chicane probably, and then you're back on, and then it's a little bit uphill to Clark's, and then. Yeah, that's a tough old 24 hours. I do know that the circuit's owner, Derek Butcher, who lives right, he has a lovely log cabin that sort of looks onto the kind of opening sector of the track, and he walks his dog around the circuit every morning.
Oh, what a legend! That must be really cool as well. A dog doesn't realise how lucky he is, does he, to get to do that as well? That's absolutely awesome.
The dog's probably taking racing lines around every corner now.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be off sprinting to get the sheep in the next field as well if he's not careful. We'll have to keep him on the lead.
Well, it's a big dog. I'd put my money on the dog. So yeah,
that's absolutely awesome. No,
of course, that's Rory's dad.
Oh, is it really, Rory Butcher?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, it's speaking of which, how nice has it been to see Gordon Shedden? He really didn't have a fantastic weekend at Snetterton, did he? But I mean, he could have got pole position, but a ridiculous ruling meant that obviously he started from the back. I'm sure you'll probably be hoping and rooting for him to do a little bit better at Brands Hatch this weekend.
Yeah, it just a couple of things just haven't gone Gordon's way so far this season, but I'm keeping Brands Hatch is a circuit that's been pretty good to Rory over the last couple of seasons, so I'm really hoping that this is going to be the kind of breakthrough race. But I tell you what, young Mister Tingram and that Hyundai, they're quite a potent combination so far.
Oh, ridiculous. Yeah, I think obviously the Hyundai has been under-driven, shall we say, for a number of years, and a lot of people probably didn't realise that until Mr. Tingram jumped in it and put his own stamp on it. I think he's only going to get stronger as he understands the car a bit more, but he certainly looks a lot happier in the Hyundai than he does in the old, oh my God, what was he in? He was in the Corolla before, wasn't he? So, yeah, fingers crossed he doesn't get too quick. And the BMWs can keep him sort of in sight, but he does look like a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure.
Yeah, he does. I think it's going to be an intriguing season. Of course, very much a condensed season again for the drivers. So you don't want to be going and smashing up cars either, because there's sometimes very quick turnarounds from race to race. So let's see. It's going to be a very, very interesting season, that's for sure. So the drivers now just closing off their warm-up session, and we should be ready to go in just a moment. Just about 15 seconds of the warm-up session left, and we'll go into the feature race. Jack, who's your money on for this one?
Oh, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I mean, you mentioned Paul Rieger before. It's a bit of a boring shout, but to be honest, he's probably the one out of, I don't know, 10th to 20th. Paul Rieger's the driver that stood out in race 1 in terms of somebody who could really do something in race 2. I think the other top 10 were fairly sensible. It's whether or not they can get through the first corner, but I'll let you read us out the grid to see who is the favourites.
Well, starting on the front row of the grid then will be Milan Phaetons, with Paul Godden joining him on the front row. John Barnes and Paul Rieger start on row 2, with Wayne Palmer and Jaco van der Plat on row 3. Jason Rowe will be on start from 7th, followed by Michael Blake, Mark Phillips and Mark Woodhouse. Jens Goosens will start from 11th, with Adam McNally joining him on row 6. Austin Greatorex will start beside Sam Bentham, followed by Miguel Freitas, Chris Wood, Ryan Parkins, Matthew Crisp, Lewis Ward, and race 1 winner Gavin Halls will roll off from 20th. Adam Delmont starts 21st, followed by Jeroen Kaiser, Niles de Kuiper, Craig Schill, and finally Lee Deemer and Stuart Musselwhite. Well, as you can see, the drivers they're in a bit of a rush to get to the grid and get going with this 40-minute feature race here at Spa. 1 compulsory pit stop. Take it more or less wherever you like. The lights are being prepared. The revs will begin to rise. The drivers will be about to release these all 4 litres of Weissach muscle, and we're racing here at Spa for the feature race in the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. It's a good start for Milan Phaetons as well. Made full use of that pole position, and he's off into the lead like a shot. Gordon behind him, John Barnes fits into third, and there's Paul Riga in fourth in the order they started.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Mark Phillips trying to make a huge dive up the inside into Le Source, but it didn't come off for him. But look at this, Paul Riga all over the backside of John Barnes, and Barnes already coming out of Radion, not quite able to get the run. So it is going to be Paul Riga into third place, but look at the top two as well. Pulled away a massive gap. Milan Phaeton with an absolutely sensational race start, but in the background, everybody else is queuing up to try and be, well, everywhere else at the moment to try and gain one or two positions. Mark Woodhouse, John Barnes seems to be a cork in the bottle at the moment, a cork that isn't lasting too long if Mark Woodhouse has anything to say by it. Goes around the outside, and I think John Barnes knows he's in a bit of trouble here. As who's that going slowly? Paul Godden. Godden with a slamming on the brakes. He's going to be parked on the apex. Not entirely sure what's happened to him. Maybe he got slowed down. Yeah,
I think so. I think he's been administered iRacing slowdown penalty for cutting the course. So, ooh, dearie me. Oh no, and McNally's had a problem as well. And I think, is that Halls? It is. Halls has got tangled with one of the WestTech Hyundai NB team cars. Oh no.
Yeah, Gavin Halls, that's absolutely good. And that was Sam Bentham. So Sam Bentham is currently running in 24th. Adam McNally in 23rd. Some big names already falling down the order, it has to be said. Mark Woodhouse is up 6th. I was looking, where is... Oh, Paul Riga's up to 2nd. Another one that was maybe an outside shout was Austin Greatorex. Well, he's up 6 positions. Matthew Crisp, obviously he came in the... I think he came 3rd in race number 1. He's up 10 places. Currently in 8th position. So, yeah, a couple of drivers getting through the order. And as people start to sort of get a little bit further abreast, and you know, it's a 40-minute race, long way to go, we'll potentially see some drivers picking other drivers off slowly and more sort of calculated than we did before. And a good example of that may well be Austin Greatorex on Michael Blaker, as John Barnes in the way for some reason. Barnes is going very slowly, and Greatorex goes around the outside of both of them. A fantastic move.
Yeah, watch out for Austin Greatorex. He is on the move. Great start though for Milan Phaetons. Riga up to 2nd now from 4th on the grid, and well in draft range there of Milan Phaetons. So, whoa, the curse of race 2 strikes Gavin Halls once again, but Ryan Parkins from 17th on the grid, he's now up to 10th as well. So watch out for Parkins if he can get a clean run of things over the next couple of laps as well. Greatorex up to 5th, but he's got Matthew Crisp on his case right now in the Alcantech.com car. Up the Kennel Straight they go, like Schumacher and Hakkinen. Who is going to have who's going to have the line going into Les Combes? You got to think that Greatorex, yeah, once bitten, twice shy. Greatorex goes, well, if you want to go through, I'm not going to fight it too hard. I'll get you another time. And that is a driver who's come a cropper by the aggression of another driver, and smart play there from Greatorex.
Yeah, and he's probably very conscious by the fact that Mark Woodhouse and Wayne Palmer maybe aren't as quick as Matthew Crisp and Austin Greatorex in a sort of a full race length, shall we say. They're obviously doing pretty well at the moment. Milan Phaetons has actually dropped off a little bit, and then Paul Riga's reeled him in somehow. We'll be able to see, you know, the difference in the lap time as soon as they come across the lap, but obviously it's such a long lap that that won't be for quite some time. However, you're right. I mean, you called out Paul Riga for a good shout at the race victory. Well, he needs to get past Milan to do that, and if he does it cleanly and he does it quickly, he'll have a fairly big stretch of completely empty road ahead of him, and well, a mandatory pit stop as well. People remember he's got to come into the pits at some point. He won't be doing that if he's got no one in front of him.
No, if Paul Riga can get by, you've got to think that he will want to just run that tank until it's absolutely dry. Of course, with such a long lap here at Spa Francorchamps, you've got to be just getting that extra lap can be really, really important as well. If you're just short, then of course you lose a real amount of time. So Riga, this will be really fascinating to see how this next little phase of the race plays out. Palmer quite a decent way back in 3rd, with Mark Woodhouse in 4th as well. And whoa, Mark Woodhouse getting into a bit of an argy-bargy there with Palmer, and that's allowed Matthew Crisp and Austin Greatorex to go by, and Matthew Crisp a 222.7, but half a second quicker than the leaders.
Yeah, actually, Paul Riga needs to get the job done, doesn't he, if he wants to get clear air and get ahead I mean, they have got about 4.5 seconds, but that can be very quickly eaten up. No driver has yet taken the pit stop. We are only 2 laps in. It would have been a slight surprise if they had. But, I mean, we saw them do it very early. Sam Bentham has actually just put in the fastest lap of the race from 23rd position. So, Sam Bentham on a recovery drive, potentially. I wouldn't be surprised if he came into the pits early, to be honest, to try and get it out of the way. Paul Rieger goes through on Milan Phaetons. We missed it on screen. We'll try and get a replay of it, but I'm pretty sure that's just a standard dive at the inside.
Yeah, it looks like it was at Lake Holm there. Paul Regan got the draft up the Kemmel Straight, timed it perfectly, and got by. Very nice indeed there from Paul Regan. Now, we're getting word that there might have been a bit of contact between Crisp and Greatorex. Don't exactly know where, but interesting. They were certainly close together on track. They still are. So maybe Greatorex will be looking to try and hopefully not return the favour, but certainly make a pass on Crisp, who at the moment looking very strong indeed, looking very quick.
Yeah, unfortunately, nothing's coming up on our sort of event ticker, so it wasn't big enough for iRacing to register it as a crash or anything like that. So, we can only wait and see.
Blake and Greatorex, but
really?
That's a strange one. Yeah, Blake now down in 9th. They weren't together on track. That's strange.
Yeah, that one, again, basically nothing has come up involving Greatorex that I've seen on my event ticket, so unfortunately we can't go and have a look at that. Lewis Ward up 6 positions, he's into 13th, and look, he's in there amongst this fight, this mid-pack fight here that you nearly always see in every reverse grid race, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. That's what these reverse grids are all about. Of course, we had a couple of comments in the break there about car setup. Of course, Spa is a real compromise because you've got some corners where you just want so much downforce, because they're so fast corners that you really don't want the car to be getting loose. You want it to be on rails. However, there's a lot of long drags down the straights where if you're running high downforce, you're also running high drag. So you really are needing. You almost need 2 different setups. You need a flexi wing. That's what you need. So getting that compromise just right, that requires a lot of testing, a lot of mileage to work through the options and get the best one for you. Of course, some drivers don't mind the car being a little bit loose so they can put up with a lower downforce setup, but others want the car to be planted to perform at their best. You can see Paul Riga here just adjusting his line along the Kemmel Straight back and forth to try and disrupt the aerodynamic slipstream that Phaetons will be picking up from him, but they've pulled a decent gap. But Crisp is just put in another best lap of the race, so he's on the move.
He is indeed, and I've just realised that Ryan Parkins up 10 positions into 7th. Well, you always say, Pete, that he's the calm, steady, calculated driver as Ryan Parkins. He hasn't done things differently here tonight either. He's gained 10 positions. He started in 17th. He's picked off drivers one by one. No need to go silly buggers on the first couple of laps. And he'll be pretty happy. He's got Miguel Freitas ahead of him, Mark Woodhouse as well, within sight, within shooting distance, shall we say. And if he can get a top 5 out of this race, he'll be absolutely thrilled.
He will. And this is what Ryan Parkins will do all season long. He'll just click off these consistent performances and book the points. And it is a nightmare to race against a driver as consistent as Ryan Parkins. And that is going to be his secret weapon, or not so secret weapon, for his championship charge. Now, clearly Gavin Halls has got rapid pace in qualifying and in race 1, but the reverse grid curse has really struck him over the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, indeed.
So Woodhouse and Freitas, 2 teammates here, of course. Freitas goes by. Woodhouse makes absolutely no objection to that. He says, I'll just tuck in behind you, Miguel. And Parkins now will have to play it clever as well. He's got 2 teammates there as well. Now, the thing is, in sim racing, the word teammate is much more accurate to the literal meaning than in outdoor racing, shall we say, because normally in outdoor racing, Jack, your teammate is the guy where you're looking across the garage thinking, I'm going to bury you. I have to bury you, otherwise I'm out of a job. Because it's the only driver who's in the same or similar car, whereas in sim racing, it's usually a group who get on very well together and they're working together all the time. It's a completely different dynamic.
It absolutely is, yeah. I mean, you could be racing at Snetterton, mess up 2 corners and brake check your teammate. But we will probably less about said that about that, the better. But yeah, it's absolutely correct. Yeah, in sim racing, you share setups, you share everything. In sort of real life racing, you could argue outdoor racing, like you just said, it's a little bit more cliquey, shall we say. You know, you don't want to share all your data, but equally the team need all 3 drivers or 2 drivers on the podiums if they can get them. Here comes Ryan Parkins and Mark Woodhouse, and a little bit of contact there, Pete. I'm not sure what you make of that one, but Parkins maybe saying, you know, I'm faster than you, I was flashing you before, you know this is happening, so let you know, just don't get in the way, basically.
I wonder if Woodhouse might have a front right puncture, because he's going, all of a sudden is really kind of slowed up a bit as well, or could even be a suspension failure. I think he's got, it's either a puncture or a suspension. Yes, the front right wheel looks to be at quite a strange camber, Mark Woodhouse's car. So it was a light contact. They might have actually even been, it was so light that it might have actually been netcode assisted as well, when the sim thinks the 2 cars are closer together than they actually are. I don't know. Let's get another look at it. That's good. So let's see what happens here as well. So Parkins gets a bit of a run on Woodhouse. Woodhouse is on the inside. I think Woodhouse maybe has this damage by now. Yes, he does, because they're going to touch on the left-hand side. I think that is a what we call digital aero wake, or netcode it's often referred to as.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, to be fair, looking back on it as well, I don't think really Parkins did anything untoward there either. And to be fair, probably Woodhouse didn't either. So I don't think it was a case of, oh, you know, I'm faster than you, this is happening. I think it was just a case of one driver going through, and you know, there's maybe not enough space for both of them, and you know, there's this little touch at the end. But Woodhouse isn't going into the pit, so if there is damage on his car, which, I mean, there's visual damage, but maybe it's not holding him up too much because he doesn't want to pit in and get it fixed out. And obviously the drivers do have to make a mandatory pit stop anyway. So if I was Woodhouse and his car was damaged, you'd think that he would come in, get it sorted out as soon as possible and blend back into the circuit at a reasonable place.
Yeah, that could be a good shout, actually, as well, especially if you think that maybe the drivers around you are a little bit fast and you're a little bit faster than you, or you're going to get, you know, it's just going to upset your rhythm. Get in, get that fast repair, and get this, or effectively like a brand new car, the fast repair, and it's instant as well. You don't have to wait. So yeah, definitely, I think playing that, if you've had early damage, playing that fast repair early, and someone who I think has done that, or has Gavin Halls done his pit stop yet?
Not yet. No,
Gavin Halls. I don't think we've had any pits yet. I'm looking down there. We have had a few. We've had Chris Wood has made his stop, as has Bentham, as has Sharon Kaiser. Lee Deemer has as well, and Mark Phillips, Bernie, he's in the pits at the moment.
He is indeed, yeah. Adam McNally, as I said, and Mark Phillips in the pits. And Adam McNally has been involved in a crash, and so is Mark Phillips, and that was the crash in question. Bernie going into the backside of Adam, and it's not been the best evening for XI, has it, unfortunately. But that one absolutely wasn't their fault, it has to be said.
Yes, not been a good day for the XI team. One to stick in the cupboard and carry on, out of sight, out of mind. That's always the best policy. So John Barnes and Michael Blake here, tussling over the last spot in the top 10 as things stand, as we approach the 14-minute mark in this race. So the pit window very much open now, so drivers can come in, take their stops, and get back out on circuit and make it to the end without having to stop again, should they wish to. Interesting to see how that strategy will play out. And whoa, dearie me, Lewis Ward, a big move there on Goossens. Now, is Goossens going to go for a bit of a retaliation? Oh, thinks about it, but Lewis Ward very, very late on the brakes in that Team 11 car. But Parkins hasn't been able to get past Freitas. Miguel Freitas, the man from Porto. Oh, he's having a vintage day here at Spa.
He is indeed, you know, and to be fair, he's running pretty good lap times at the moment. Parkins has gained 11 places, Freitas has gained 10, so Freitas obviously started just ahead of Parkins, and the lap times very similar, only a couple of tenths taken off by Parkins each and every lap. But as I said, realistically, he's got past Mark Woodhouse. If he gets a top 5, he'll be absolutely delighted. A top 6 is not that much worse. He's a long way to go. We're only 15 minutes of this 40-minute session, can you believe? And in fact, Freitas has just been overtaken by Parkins, as we were talking about that. By the looks of it, Parkins has gotten the job done. Matthew Crisp has also gotten past Milan Phaetons. So all of a sudden, Paul Rieger didn't get a big enough gap, I fear, here, because Matthew Crisp is on a bit of a mission. And in the last lap alone, Crisp was 0.8 of a second quicker than Paul Rieger.
Well, now that Crisp has got through, well, this is interesting how Crisp will play this one out, because Paul Rieger is very, very much last of the late breakers as well, and Rieger might well have an ally on the way here in the form of Austin Greatorex. If Rieger and Crisp start fighting, that will bring the field back together a little bit more, but Crisp definitely the man with the pace at the moment, it appears. But if you're Crisp, when do you take your pit stop? At the moment, he's running unencumbered. But if he finds himself in a bit of a tangle with Rieger, whoa, this could be really interesting how this one plays out. All 4 of these drivers at the front here are in the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure which way I would go. I've never been very good at calling out strategy, it has to be said, and I'm not going to even attempt it now. But I would have to say that if you were Paul Rieger, as long as you're not driving in the mirrors, you don't see your lap times falling away and everything like this, you would probably carry on, because you want clear track space and you want track position, don't you, over everything else in racing. People tend to go for track position rather than strategy, unless you're, say, Red Bull at the weekend. But there's every opportunity that, Crisp could pull a fantastic couple of laps out, and he already is doing that, because he's taken, on that last lap alone, he took a full second, well, 0.9 of a second, but we'll call it a full second because it was 9.5, and Rieger is not helping himself. Paul Rieger ends up with a huge slide on the rear end, and that's allowing Crisp to get alongside him into Eau Rouge. Completely forgot the name, probably the most famous famous corner in the world, and Crisp gets through.
Yeah, there was 1.1 seconds the gap last time by, and yeah, Rieger just that tiny mistake, and that is critical. Christmas come early for Matthew Crisp. Now, for Matthew Crisp, that kind of makes the decision for him, and here comes Phaetons. Phaetons going to make the move on Rieger now. Puts it up the inside, parks it in there. There it is. Now, will Rieger keep his teammate behind? Austin Greatorex in the number 20 car. There's your answer.
An absolute
yes. Oh, but then loses it on the brake. Oh, dear me. Poor old Paul Rieger. That was, if that's letting your teammate by, it's certainly an alternative way to do it.
I was going to say, you were just saying about how Simworld teammates are slightly different, and they sort of work together a lot more than real life racing. You've just seen the sort of exception that proves the rule, really, haven't you? Unfortunately, as Paul Rieger went defensive, but then went too deep and allowed Aston Greatorex to go through. And to be fair, actually, looking at Greatorex's times the last couple of laps, you can't really argue with him going through and trying to maybe launch a bit more of an attack on Phaetons, and then eventually hopefully catch up to Matthew Crisp. Now, you said that Crisp's decision was basically taken away from him. Now he's in clean air. He's not going to pit in anytime soon, is he? He's going to go for as long as possible.
No, this is absolute dreamland for Matthew Crisp. That could be a critical section of the race there, where Crisp was if Rieger hadn't have made a mistake, Crisp would have had to work a lot harder and lost a lot more time trying to get by. But now he's got that golden opportunity, that's just the most beautiful sight in the world for a racing driver. Clean track ahead, and it's push, push, push for Matthew Crisp. But Greatorex in the last couple of laps has really got a hurry on as well, and he's desperately trying to get past Phaetons here as well, and trying to see how he measures up on pace. It appears that Crisp has had the edge up to now. 2:23.5 for Crisp, 2:23.9 for Greatorex. So not far behind, considering Greatorex has been held up, and a little bit wide for Phaetons. And again, now here comes Rieger. Rieger's going to go, I'm going to have a bit as well. Oh dear. It's already after you, sir, isn't it? So, game on then. Greatorex versus Crisp. Who's it going to be as we reach the halfway point?
Phaetons just missed that braking zone through La Source, didn't he? It wasn't, I don't think he was necessarily letting the two past, but he didn't exactly come back and try and fight his worth for it either. So maybe just accept that a few of these guys were looking very quick. Let's get into the slipstream. Maybe Ryan Parkins won't catch me up. That's a big maybe, and that's a big name to have catching you up, though, isn't it, with Ryan Parkins? What Fenton doesn't need to do right now is think about driving in his mirrors, basically. He's got to focus purely on the car ahead. That could mean that if Riga misses a braking zone, then Phaeton's misses a braking zone. But all in all, Riga has been quick. So, you know, if Phaeton's replicates what Riga's been doing and learns a little bit here or there, or maybe pushes the car a little bit harder than Riga, then he could see the lap time start to come back his way and an opportunity for a podium position come back his way as well. But Riga looks like he's pulling away slightly. There's nearly a second gap now.
Yeah, Paul Riga's really got a bit of a resurgence here as well. I just thought, right, I'll get hooked into the back of my teammate here and make a breakaway. So this is going to be interesting to see what the times are now between Greater X and Crisp. Now that they're into a little bit of clean air, Gavin Hall's really on the recovery as well. So despite getting involved in an early incident, he doesn't have much damage. Doesn't appear like he has any damage on the car there, which is good. And he's been slowly but surely making his way through the field. Liberal use of the headlight flasher there as well. And can he get past on Rowe? Or it was, of course, the Rover Racing Oils, spelt exactly the same way, won the Spa 24 Hour last year with their Porsche. So we could call him we could call him Rover.
Yeah, well, let's hope that Mr. Rover gets the hammer down. We're going through Blanchimont. It's getting very close between Gavin Halls and Jason Rowe, and it looks a bit Rowe's having to go defensive again. This is actually, for arguably, the last place in the... Oh, Rover goes into the pit lane. That was a late call, though, wasn't it? Don't you think there?
He's gone in for an oil change.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably an underwear change as well, as he looked at the inside of Blanchimont. Having a look on his screen on the left-hand side now, though, the race is basically split into two halves, isn't it? Two sets of categories, shall we say. The drivers who have taken a pit stop and the drivers who haven't taken a pit stop. Well, Milan Phaetons has now given up the ghost and trying to chase down the top three. He's decided to come into the pit lane. He's on his way out now, so we'll see where he joins out. I think he's pretty safe ahead of Chris Wood, who you can just see coming out of the background there. So Phaeton's leading the pitted cars, and crucially, that's pretty important, isn't it, Pete? Because we knew he was in fourth place. He was quite happily in fourth place. So we can now start guessing where the other drivers might start to fall if they decide to pit in.
We will. It'll be a really good barometer there, will Milan Phaetons. Last time by, Austin Greatorex 0.2 of a second quicker than Crisp. So let's see how it goes on this lap here and see if that gap comes down once more. And if we have a proper battle on our hands here as well between Crisp and Greatorex. And of course, Austin Greatorex very unlucky in race 1, but had a super recovery to 8th spot. So been a good meeting so far, certainly from a driving perspective for Austin. We'll see. He's a very keen motocross rider is Austin, and I think he used to race motocross as well.
That's interesting. I didn't know. I don't know where you're getting all these facts and figures from these drivers. It's astonishing. I think you've got a spreadsheet that I haven't seen or something, but it's quite impressive, as I said, the knowledge. So yeah, it's good to see Austin Greatorex. He's probably quite as a dapper hand on the bikes as he is in the sim racing world in cars as well. It'd be interesting to see what he'd be like in a real life car.
From what I understand, very quick in his. I think he shares the Turbo S with his dad, I think, and they do a lot of track days in it as well. Although he won't like me saying this, but it's got the wrong gearbox in it, of course. It needs a manual gearbox, proper gearbox. None of this flappy nonsense. But interestingly there, Crisp responded almost to exactly the same tune as Greatorex did the lap before. So the gap very much steady now between Greatorex and Crisp, and it could well come down to when they choose to take their stop and if they come out in clean air.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the pit lane timer as well. I mean, there is a slight discrepancy. You know, there is an opportunity to gain half a second. You know, it's all about how close you can brake to the speed limiter line without actually triggering the fact that you are speeding in the pit lane, sort of thing. How early can you get on the power coming out of it? You might have damage on. Sometimes you might not tick that you don't want the damage to be changed or the tyres to be changed. You know, as I said, I think last week, I'm pretty guilty of that every so often, of the fact that I don't want my tyres changed. All of a sudden I come in and they're changing my tyres, and it's because I haven't clicked the button to tell them not to change my tyres, sort of thing. So it's all those sort of things. So realistically, we're having a look at the pit lane timers. Say Jason Rover, he was in for 41 seconds, whereas Adam Delmont was only in for 39 seconds. So a full 2-second gap. That can be the difference between a third place and a race victory in this particular race.
And that could be it. It also could, you know, it depends on the driver's fuel consumption as well. Of course, the lighter footed the drivers have been, then obviously the less time they have to spend filling up in the pit lane. So that can come down to it as well. I don't think there would be a huge discrepancy between Crisp and Greater X, but who knows? We shall see. At the moment, Gavin Hall's stuck behind Michael Blake in the Team Mad machine. And this is probably a time where Gavin might think, now do we duck into pit lane? 14 minutes to go. Come into pit lane, because at the moment this is holding Gavin up quite badly. He'll be losing, you know, half a tenth every corner, and you just cannot afford to lose those sorts of margins. So, I wonder. But the thing is, though, the one thing about Gavin is, Jack, is that he is such a hard racer, and he just cannot help himself to have a bit of a battle there. And Blake eventually gives best, thinking, you know what, I think I'll just let you through.
I was going to say, and that will change the strategy, because you're right, he may well have been thinking, if he was being held up, I'll dive into the pits. But the problem is, if he dived into the pits, I'm having a look, where is 40 seconds back from him? Because it'll be roughly 40 seconds. It'd be an 18th position, so it's not going to really help him that much. He spent the entire race fighting with people. All of a sudden now he's got 7 to 8 seconds ahead of him to Mark Woodhouse. That's effectively like being in the race lead for him. It's clear air, isn't it? It's as close to the race lead as he's going to get in terms of just clean lap times. I reckon he's going to go for as long as possible now, try and get some decent lap times, and maybe, you know, he'll pit in and maybe he'll come out in, say, 15th instead of 20th. Which will really help him in the last stage of this race. Which, to be fair, actually, we're almost at, aren't we? Because we're 27 minutes in, well over halfway, and we've only got less than 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, indeed. It's coming down into the business end of this motor race, and you got to think that now that the clean air is finally there for probably what feels like the first time in this race, Gavin Hall is going to run that tank dry as much as he can. Use this clean air as much as possible. Nice controlled little slide there coming out of Lake Como as well, right under control as well. So he's clearly pushing his Gavin Halls, and he does need to. And this is very much a case of damage limitation, isn't it? Because nothing could really do about getting involved in an incident early on. But my goodness me, as he fought back.
He has indeed, yeah, gaining 12 positions from where he started, but obviously without the pit lane, without the pit stop. So, you know, it's all sort of provisional at the moment. Adam Delmont and Jaco van der Plat seem to be going and having a nice little battle. They have pitted, so this is arguably sort of for position. Well, it's for track position anyway, obviously. They'll probably jump a few people as they start coming into the pit lane. But, I mean, realistically, I think even Lewis Ward is in threat of dropping behind these two drivers, and he's all the way up to 6th place. But if they keep fighting like this, it's not going to be as easy as they'd like, are they? But they look like they're having a fantastic bit of fun whilst doing it, which is important.
They are, yeah, absolutely. Van der Plat and Delmont. Two very nice looking cars here as well. Actually, I do like the Sim Stickers car as well. Paul Godden in one of those cars, and it reminds me a lot of the very first Porsche RSRs that raced in IMSA in America in 2014 when the Grand Dam and American Le Mans Series was merged, and the factory RSR program. It's very similar colour scheme with the grey and the red. Side by side Fleur Bronchi Montless always works out well. Not. Oh, for goodness sake. Oh, dearie me.
I'm blaming you for the commentator's curse there, Pete. No, I'm not
Oh,
really.
my
You
word,
said
that is
not at the
just-
end, just before they hit each other. So let's have another look at that one. Oh, no, I want to go a bit further back than that.
Ah, dear.
I mean, we saw something semi-similar. I'll probably just elongate this sentence. Well, yeah, I'll say it. We saw something semi-similar at Hockenheim, didn't we? Where one driver was sort of driving along the white line and another one was sort of side by side, but there wasn't really that much space to go into the first corner. It's a similar style of thing. It'll probably be put down as a racing incident, but both drivers probably in future just need to be a bit more aware about the amount of space that these Porsches need.
Yeah, that was certainly an unnecessary incident, that's for sure. Blanchiment. I always remember Jackie Stewart used to say, he says, everyone talks about Eau Rouge, but really it's about Blanchiment. Especially one of these cars, you're just about flat, depending on the downforce you're running. It's very, very, if you are flat, then you're doing well. And it is such a big, big guts corner, and if you just get it slightly wrong, it's a big, big off. And to go too wide, there just simply isn't room to do it. So, oh, dearie me, an unnecessary accident, but it's two cars completely destroyed and two races completely destroyed.
It is indeed. Just having a look, because Miguel Freitas is actually the leading driver who has done a pit stop, which means he's jumped Milan Phaetons. So I was wondering how on earth that happened, because there's a big gap between them, about 11 seconds. But the main point of sort of the reason why it happened is because Milan Phaetons actually lost 9 seconds in the pit for something that I have absolutely no idea what for. Don't know whether he had damage or whether he changed tyres or something. I'm not entirely sure what it was. But Miguel Freitas, maybe he didn't use as much fuel. He came out with 30, well, basically bang on 40 seconds, and Phaetons came out 48.5 seconds. So big 8.5 seconds lost for Phaetons. So Miguel Freitas may actually be the driver we're keeping an eye on, as Parkins and Crisp have now come into the pit lane.
Okay, so Ryan Parkins in pit lane. Crisp is already on the way, and Parkins now on the way as well. So Freitas still keeping going. It's getting really, really close now as well. Now, look at this. Gavin Halls, of course, Gavin Halls is still to pit. So interesting then. I wonder if Crisp, well, if he'll be able to hook into the back of Halls there as well. Ooh, no, they're a little bit too far away. I wonder if Gavin Halls will be coming in then on the next lap or two. Greatorex still out at the front, and you've got to think that he will be pushing 100% at the moment.
Yeah, you do have to, but I don't think Halls' strategy will change too much, because if if Matthew Crisp had come out about a second ahead of Halls, then all of a sudden Halls might be thinking, oh damn, my strategy's done and dusted now. But there was an 8-second gap between Woodhouse and Halls when Halls got into clean air. Now it's 4.5 seconds, and we've only been sort of had that situation for about 2 or 3 laps. So Halls is really eating up the time now, to the point where if he takes a 40-second pit stop, he's coming out between Jason Rover and Lee Deemer in 14th and 15th position, which means, I mean, that doesn't sound fantastic, but he's jumped about 3 places in the space of 2 laps. He'll be keeping going for as long as possible. We only have 7 minutes left of this race, though, and they are long laps. So you don't want to get caught out in not being able to actually fit your pit stop into the entire race, because you're thinking you're being cheeky and leaving it that extra lap or two.
It looks like we're getting picked up for the pronunciation of Roe rather than Rover. Of course, that is a play on words because of the Rover Oil racing team. Of course it's pronounced Rover, we know, but we like to play on words, don't we?
We're just trying to have a poke at a little bit of fun, aren't we, with Jason?
Yes.
With Team Mad Solo, but no, don't worry, we know the proper pronunciation.
I tell you what, and if I was to be likened to any race team, Rover Oil race team would be a very good one to start with. Winner of Spa 24 and Nürburgring 24 in the same year last year. Not many people can say that, with 2 different types of car. One with a Porsche, one with a BMW.
Exactly, so the worst teams to be associated with. Gavin Hall's in the pit lane, so is Mark Woodhouse, Lewis Ward, Paul Rieger and Austin Greatorex, which makes me suggest that they're probably, they're just a bit worried that they don't want to push it for too long and accidentally get caught out by not making any kind of pit. Paul Rieger is out on circuit though already, and he's managed to get himself ahead of Miguel Freitas, just behind Ryan Parkins. So Parkins has jumped Rieger in the pit lane.
Yeah, but Ryan Parkins played that one absolutely perfect. He's probably just running that a little bit more efficient driving style as well. And yeah, so we have a Porsche Sport 234 now as well. Well, we do, but here comes Miguel Freitas. Here comes the Portuguese driver on Paul Riga. He's got a big overspeed there. And through he goes at Lake Holm, but runs a little bit in too deep as well. Can Riga retaliate? No, Freitas puts his car in just the right spot. Good racecraft there from the man from Porto. Oh, here comes Riga though. He's going to have a go at Brussels, and he's surely in the gravel there. Oh, Paul Riga, way too late on the brakes there. And that was the same place he had the mistake when Greatorex got by.
Yeah, so maybe it didn't quite do the maths for the pit stop too much. He didn't do it brilliantly. He came up with some 41 and went in too deep, unfortunately, straight on down the hill and straight into the
solid gold.
Thank you very much. And straight into the kitty litter. Unfortunately, it's not been Paul Riga's race that he was hoping for. Once he got into the lead, there was every opportunity that he would pull away, didn't he? But he didn't ever quite get the momentum that he wanted, and Matthew Crisp pipped him, and ever since then it's just been going slightly backwards for him.
I tell you what, Charles Draycott, when he watches this back, which I'm sure he will, he'll like that one. He does play on words as well. Also, those two drivers that I've forgotten who they were now, but the two drivers that came together at Blanchimont, they'll be giving each other a fat lip right now.
Damn it. I should have thought of that. Very well done, very well done. Hopefully the people in the chat aren't too exasperated by our play on words here, and they actually enjoy the racing that's on the screen. If you want to mute it, guys, just mute it. There's only 4 minutes left anyway of fantastic racing, by the way, because Greatorex has caught up to Crisp.
He has, yeah. So they've both done their pit stops now as well. Looks like Greatorex is that little bit quicker in the lane, and it's game on now. It's a race to the finish. There will be... This is the penultimate lap now. So 2 to go here at Spa. Can Greatorex have anything to say about Matthew Crisp here, who's been so impressive in this feature race? Of course, that will mean... that will mean that Matthew Crisp will be our third... our third different winner in the European Porsche Cup here on Simracersworld TV, if he's able to keep Greatorex at bay, which is no guarantee.
It is no guarantee, but one thing that was always a guarantee was that this was going to be a fantastic meeting and a brilliant finale sort of thing to our first 200 broadcasts here on SRW. So a big thank you. If we forget by the end of this, because we do get swept along with the racing a little bit, and it looks like Greatorex is going to try and give us some entertainment at the end as well. But if we don't remember, then a big thank you to everybody who's tuned in over the past 200 broadcasts, giving a like, giving a subscribe. It's been absolutely mega. All the series, all the drivers, all the commentators, people behind the scenes, and just basically everyone who's been involved in the last 200 episodes, basically 200 broadcasts. A big thank you, and hopefully here's to another 200.
And within those 200 broadcasts somewhere, we got banned by the North Koreans for mentioning Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up. We didn't actually play the song, but the North Koreans complained to YouTube about us for mentioning it.
Well, imagine the amount of subscribers we've lost out there. It's probably a good 2 or 3.
Are they allowed to use YouTube? I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. We'll
That's a serious question. I don't think they will. So, anyway, back at the front, political ideals aside, we're nearly on the final lap. And Matthew Crisp and Austin Greatorex flying through Blanchimont, absolutely flat stick. And will Greatorex have anything to say? Look how smooth it is. Mistake for Crisp, and Greatorex is going to try and hook around, and oh my, Crisp just gets away with it and no more. There was kind of nowhere left for Greatorex to go, and Crisp just made, if you're going to make a mistake, make a good one, and that was a good one to make at the right point. But that does mean that Greatorex is all over the back of him, and Crisp has got to recover quickly as well. Greatorex is right underneath the engine cover now. In the draft, up Eau Rouge they go. You've got to be careful for a bit of dirty here as well. You're hanging on by your fingernails. Up the Camel Straight they go. Greatorex has got a super run on Matthew Crisp. Crisp goes far to the inside. Greatorex pops to the outside as well. It's a drag race down the Camel Straight. 4 honours here in the feature race in the Simracers World European Porsche Cup. Here goes Greater Exit Lecombe. Goes around the outside there, side by side as well. Chris back to the inside as well. Takes the spot just. Oh my word, Jack, I'm going to lose my voice.
Oh, two Porsches going absolutely hammering songs at each other and doing a fantastic job. Austin Greatorex keeping the momentum. I thought he'd done it around the outside, but Chris with a fantastic defensive drive, but he's not gone yet as he's going through No Name. Chris is through. I thought he'd thrown it away on the last corner, the last chicane, going over those bumps on the curb and everything like that. It was going to be a ridged Chris. I thought he was going to turn into a McCoy's, but at the moment he isn't bumping around. His tyres haven't been damaged, and he's just about to hold off Greatorex. But they've still got Blanchimont, and they've still got the final chicane to go, which we've seen so many advantageous overtakes and clean racing as well. Hopefully we'll see exactly the same.
Well, let's see then as well. Chris was really rallied after being able to defend just and no more into Lecombe. He's been really strong throughout the rest of the circuit. Greatorex is really maybe a little bit too far away now. The gap is stretched out to about 2 or 3 car lengths. But can Greatorex get enough of a draft to make a move on the brakes into the bus stop chicane? Through Blanchimont, little dab of the brakes in both drivers as well, so not flat through there, and Chris positions his car absolutely perfectly as well. But here comes Greatorex. Is he going to have a look? Oh, just a little bit too late on the brakes, but it's going to be Matthew Crisp wins in an outright classic here at Spa by a whisker from Austin Greatorex. What a race, with Ryan Parkins finishing on the podium, Lewis Ward in 4th, and Miguel Freitas rounding out the top 5.
Well, I don't know about you, Pete, but I mean, my palms are absolutely soaking wet with sweat. I don't know how they've just done that. Fantastic driving. I mean, if you're looking at the amount of positions they've gained, Matthew Crisp, 17 positions off the start line. Greatorex, 11. Ryan Parkins, 14. Lewis, 15. Miguel Freitas, 10. Absolutely sensational driving from all of them. I mean, Gavin Halls, after being swept up in that early incident, obviously, he came home in 8th place. I anticipated he'd come back in after the pit lane in 15th. Don't know what I was on about, to be honest. My maths must have been all kinds of off. But yeah, brilliant driving from everybody involved, basically. We have had a few drivers going a little bit backwards and a little bit of contact here and there. But on the most part, it was sensational, especially those last 2 laps between Greatorex and Crisp.
Yeah, that was proper top-class motorsport, because they raced each other very, very close, very, very hard, but super, super fair from both drivers there, Crisp and Greatorex, which is what we would come to expect between those guys. Really, really good, really entertaining as well. And but once again, look who finished 3rd there, Jack. Ryan Parkins goes about his business very, very quietly, but it very much a kind of Colin Turkington style, actually. Just always there, always at the front, never ever having a bad day.
Yeah, I did think about calling that one out when you said about his driving style. He is very much like a very famous champion in British touring cars, isn't he? And it served Turkington well, and it probably will serve him pretty well again this year if he can maybe get another couple of tenths in him. I mean, Ryan Parkins, we could see him right at the sharp end of the championship. We didn't bring you the championship this time around, if you hadn't noticed. You probably did at the beginning of the session. But we will be bringing you at round 3. We just thought we'd let everything play out a little bit in race 1 and 2, or rounds 1 and 2, shall we say, at Hockenheim and Spa. And then we'll bring you the championship going forward from here on out. But it's going to be a tasty one no matter what. And I tell you what, the 3rd different driver, like you mentioned before, taking the race victory. Speaking of the victory, take us through the results.
So let's run through then. Oh,
sorry.
No problem. So Matthew Crisp, then your winner by just 0.3 of a second from Austin Greatorex, with Ryan Parkins rounding out the podium, just 3.2 seconds behind the winners in the end. Lewis Ward finished 4th, with Miguel Freitas rounding out the top 5 after a great day for the 999 Team Madcar. Paul Riga finished in 6th, followed by Milan Phaetons. Gavin Halls recovering all the way up to 8th spot as well. Great run from the British driver. Chris Wood finished 9th, and Sam Bentham rounds out the top 10. Mark Woodhouse was 11th, followed by Michael Blake, John Barnes, Lee Deemer, Jason Rowe, Niles de Kuiper, Jens Goossens, and Wayne Palmer rounds out the top 18. The last few drivers, Paul Godden, Jaco van der Plat, Craig Schill, Adam Delmont, Jeroen Kaiser, Adam McNally, Mark Phillips, and Stuart Musselwhite round out our 26 drivers here in the Simracers World European Porsche Cup. And we have a full interview room for us today. So why don't we get our race 1 winner, Gavin Halls, in for a chat. Full send, Gav. Welcome to the commentary box. That was a decent enough day at the office.
Yeah, it was all right. The first one started really good, and the second one seems my old Spa luck's back to haunt me. Just got caught up in someone else's incident, unfortunately. But good recovery, I think. I think we're P8, so good points.
You are,
and so happy, like the team, Austin, Ryan, Paul, just absolutely smashing it. So yeah, good day all round for Porsche Sport.
It was, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It was certainly. I'm sure you'll enjoy watching the last couple of laps with Austin and Matthew battling back and forth. And the best thing is, Gavin, like last time we saw you race at Spa, you didn't end up halfway up a tree.
That was all I was thinking about the whole time. Was please do not do what we did last time and have the biggest crash in iRacing history.
I feel like I'm missing something there. I'll have to go back and watch that.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it was pretty epic because it was the way Chad cut to it just as I flew directly at the camera in air. Yeah, I didn't want it. Scared me that day, and I was in the sim and I was petrified. It's probably one of my biggest shunts ever.
And and that is quite a prize.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, Gav, there's been you're on a rich vein of form at the moment. It's getting some really good pace, aspirations for the rest of the season and beyond, because you and this cup car are really gelling at the moment.
Yeah, I think it was coming, but I definitely think the update has moved it more towards me. I'm feeling really comfortable in the car and the setups. So I do the setups for the whole team. And I seem to think we've just landed on it. We're on it. And when you're on a good run, it's like any team. So we're all firing on all cylinders. And, big hats off to the boys. They're putting the hours in as well, doing the laps. And then, yeah, I think we've got it going really well.
Well, it's we'll need to get around. We need to bring it right back down to a more basic level and do some rallycross. And some rallycross giggle, I think, is definitely in store. Gav, before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout to here on Simracers TV?
Absolutely. So, we couldn't do it without our sponsors for Porsche Sport. So, Strass and Midas Simulations, Shark E-Bikes, and Bracket Clothing. And obviously Luke and Carl behind the scenes at Porsche Sport. They put in all the hard work, keeping us. We are an absolute rotten band. It was just disgusting today on Discord. It was just an hour and a half of absolutely destroying each other with gifs, and it was hilarious. But I don't think there's many teams like us who just absolutely rip each other the whole time. So it's a really good bunch of guys, and obviously well done to Austin and Ryan tonight. They've done really good. And well done to yourself. So I'm going to sit back and try and cool off, turn my AC on, and watch you guys in the stream. So thanks for doing what you do.
Well, enjoy, Gav, and we'll see you at the next round.
Yeah, we'll do. Cheers. We'll come out swinging.
So that was Gavin Halls, or Full Send Gav, as I like to call him, for reasons you'll see, I'm sure, by the end of the championship. Jack, I shall hand you over to our race 2 winner, Matthew Crisp.
Yeah, hi, how you doing, Matthew? Congratulations on that race victory. It wasn't all as easy as you were probably hoping for at about the 25-minute mark, though, was it? You got through to the race lead, but that race with Austin Greatworks was the real highlight come the end, wasn't it?
Probably a highlight for you guys, but probably wasn't, not so much when you got to defend from him. Yeah, completely fair fight with Austin. Yeah, you probably were egging him on to attack me towards the end of the race, and I'm like, I just kept making small mistakes, and I just saw he was closing in. But yeah, great fight in the end, and happy to come through the win.
I mean, we wouldn't like to say or claim that we're supporting one driver more than the other, but we do like to see good, fantastic racing and a bit of a dramatic end as well. But to be honest, you did a pretty good job of providing that at the beginning, didn't you? Because you gained 17 positions, it's worth noting. And in race 1, obviously, maybe everybody was keeping it a little bit calmer and everything, but that race 2, you really had to do the dirty work to get through. I mean, we're watching it on the screen now. There's an awful lot of cars around you, and there's a lot of people with slowdowns and everything. Describe us how stressful it is at the beginning of a race 2 reverse grid.
Yeah, it's incredibly stressful because you're around guys who you haven't been around with. Not with much. Obviously, I know racing Lewis and Gavin in race 1. You're just hoping you don't get caught up in one of those wrecks. And luckily for me, sort of turn 1, it sort of opened up on the outside. I gained a few positions there. And to be honest, it is a bit of luck just and positioning your car in the right place and just hoping things open up for you, which luckily for me today they did. Unlike last time at Hockenheimer, I got wiped out in that mess at turn 1.
Yeah, well, I think less said about the turn 1 at Hockenheim, probably the better. I think that was a much better representation of sort of the reverse grid here at the Porsche European Cup Series. We're off to, I'm just having a look, into Lagos next. Obviously, Spa is a very famous track. It's pretty much used in every single series that anybody ever races in iRacing. Into Lagos, probably not quite as popular, but it's probably one that you are fairly familiar with, I would imagine.
Yes. I hope it's one of them tracks where track temperature is going to be 50 degrees plus, so the drive is probably not quite going to be as nice as here. I think the track temperatures here were pretty reasonable. So, but yeah, track's all right. In other series I've done, I've gone all right there in the past. It's sort of one of the neutral tracks. It's not one of my favourites, but it's not one I despise too much. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, we thoroughly enjoyed watching that end of the race as well, and he did a fantastic job at basically maintaining the gap and going for as long as possible before pitting. Do explain slightly, I mean, because me and Peter here, this is the last question, a bit of a bonus question, I'd say, probably putting you on the spot slightly as well. We're here looking at the pit lane time, so the amount of time that people are in the pit lane, and there's a discrepancy of about, say some people are in there for 48 seconds, and you were in there for 38. Where's that 10 seconds difference? Is it all about fuel?
Unless some people forgot to uncheck their tyres or something like that, or decided to change tyres because the tyres here, I'm just reading, the drop-off is insane. But you're managing the tyres so much not to slip up the rears too much because they just overheat so quickly, and there's not much really you can do about it. So maybe some people took tyres. That's my only explanation.
That's what we guessed as well. Maybe we'll get someone in who does perform a 48-second pit time one, and maybe we'll ask them. Anyway, anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to, Matthew, before we let you go?
Yeah, or just our sponsors, the NHR, the Alcantech and SimLab. And probably some others I'm probably forgetting. It's a new team for me, so I'm forgetting all the names.
Well, if you keep putting in performances like that, then maybe it's worth just jotting them on a piece of paper and sticking them onto the back of the monitors, and you can quickly grab them.
It could have been worse. I could have said all the old ones from the other team.
Well, it's probably best that you keep focused on the new ones, I would say now. Yeah, congratulations, Matthew, and hopefully we'll be speaking to you next time.
Yeah, see you guys.
And that was Matthew Crisp, Pete, coming in and having a chat to us. It was lovely to chat to both of our sort of race winners at the end, because sometimes they sort of forget to come in to have a chat to us. But an awesome couple of races. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was definitely two quite different races. Race 1, the drivers got into the rhythm, found their respective places on the track, and it didn't make much mistakes. It was a very clean run. But then in race 2, wasn't necessarily that many mistakes either, but some super racing. And that race 2, the feature race with the mandatory pit stop, gives us lots of different storylines to follow, and it's going to be great to see how that plays out over the season. A lot of drivers with different attributes as well. Gavin Halls has got a lot of pace, but you look at Ryan Parkins, has been able to pick his way through the field, and Matthew Crisp is going to be a feature as well. It's going to be an absolute cracker of a season, and we've still got 4 rounds to go. We'll be back next time, same time next week, Thursday, 7:45 UK time. Myself, Peter MacKay, and Jack Oliphant will take you through all of the action. Thanks so much for tuning in to this 200th broadcast here on Simracersworld TV, and we'll see you next time.